Here I've got a folder called test. Go in that folder, you have test.html, that's our web page. There's another folder here called box. If you click in there, I've got 7 OGG files, and they're all for days of the week, and I also have 7 JPEG files, again, for all 7 days of the week. Alright, let me open up test.html, edit with Notepad++ to get the code, and then go to Run, Launch in Firefox to see the output. Okay, I don't think you heard that, but the OGG file for Thursday automatically played. You see an image that says Thursday, and then down here you see a paragraph that says today is Thursday. There's a button down here, but we're not going to get to the button yet. I've got 2 JavaScript functions, one that has to do with when this page first loads. We're going to put some code in here, and the browser is going to let us know what day of the week it is with a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 numeric value. Based on whatever that numeric value is, we are going to set up a specific image, a specific audio, and a specific day of the week for these 3 different sections of the web page. So let's get to the code. You start off in your test.html with your doctype declaration. You're opening an HTML file. As you can see, the opening and closing, there's some things that are closed, compressed, and starting with line 2 to line 157. So it's not a whole lot of code. And I'm just going to open each bit as I go through. So let's open up the head. In the head, we've got style and we've got script. The style is the CSS, the script is the JavaScript. Let's start with the style. I've got background color set to light steel blue for the body. For the image file, I have border set to 10 pixels gray outset. And for a div with the ID of wrapper, I've got 5 styles. Border set to 20 pixels, orange outset, padding set to 5 pixels, width is 270 pixels, margin is 0 pixels, auto, and background color is tan. Let's close up the style, the CSS, and let's look at the JavaScript. So in the script tags here, we've got 2 functions. Function here at line 29, function here at line 81. I created some global variables. Here's 3 global variables. Global meaning they are created outside of function so that they can be accessed by any part of your code. Var day, comma picture, comma sound, semicolon. Day, picture, and sound variables are going to be used in both the daily news function and in the button functions function. Var times equals 0 is another global variable that I could have put up here, but I put it down here because it really is to be used with this function, and I just want you to realize that this goes to this function even though it's global. This function right here, daily news, doesn't do anything with the variable times, but I still needed times to be global because we're changing the value of this variable each time button functions is called. Each time this button is clicked, it's going to call it, and we have to make sure that this counter changes between each click of the button. Alright, let's look at daily news first. Function daily news. This is the function that happens as soon as this page loads. You don't have to click anything, but it's going to do something. So let's open it up. We're using a switch statement. So you use your keyword switch, and what we are going to compare with our switch statement is what's the value of this parentheses is to the value of each case. Now I've got a number of cases here, starting with case 0, case 1, case 2, all the way to case 6. Alright, now the browser is going to interpret this line of code right here to let us know what day of the week is. In the parentheses, we've got new date, empty parentheses, dot get day, empty parentheses. The browser will come up with a value between 0 and 6. If it came up with 0, that would mean that today would be Sunday. Well, today is Thursday, so the browser is going to tell us that the value of that is 4. So when the switch compares the value of this, which is 4, to the value of the case, if that doesn't match that, then it ignores this. It doesn't match this one either because 1 is not equal to 4, so it ignores this. it ignores every case except the one that it matches, which is this. Case 4 matches that value of 4. So because this is true, we are going to execute all of these statements here. We're going to take our variable day and we're going to give it a value of Thursday. We're going to take that variable of picture and we're going to set it to the path of the image file. So remember I told you I had a folder called box? Well, we have to put the name of the folder with a / and then the name of the file we want to point to. So we have box / Thursday.jpg and double quotes. We're going to do the exact same thing for sound. The variable sound will now have the value of box / Thursday.og. And all of these are in double quotes. Then we have this break statement that means we are going to break completely out of the switch. We're going to ignore all the rest of the cases and we're going to go straight down to these 3 lines of code. We're going to say document.getElement by ID, and this ID right here, my IMG, is the ID of this image tag that we'll see later in the body section of this HTML file. This image tag has ID of my IMG. So what it's doing is it's selecting this element, and then .source means we are giving it a source file, and we're setting that source file to the variable called picture, which we up here gave picture the value of this path to this image file. Okay, so after that we do the same thing for the sound file. Document.get by ID, parentheses, double quotes, my SND, .source equals sound. So here we are digging up what OGG file we want to play in this audio player. This audio player here, this audio tag, has the ID of my SND. So we're going to grab this element and set its source to whatever value this variable has. Lastly, we're going to do the exact same thing for our paragraph. Document.getElement by ID, parentheses, double quotes, demo.innerHTML equals the string today is plus, we're going to concatenate the variable day. And of course, we're not putting the word day here, we're putting the value that day has. Okay, there's the end of the function daily news. Tomorrow, when we run this page and the switch statement asks the browser new date.getDay, it's going to give it a numeric value of 5. That way, the case that matches it will be case 5, and we will have these variables set to those values. So you'll see Friday here, you'll hear the audio say it's Friday, and you'll see this paragraph, this paragraph saying today's Friday. Okay, so that's all you get for that switch statement and end function daily news. So let me close that function up. Alright, we'll close that up. Now remember, because we created day, picture, and sound as global variables, we could use these same variables in our next function, which is function button functions. Again, I have this variable right here, which is a counter. Var times equals 0. So we didn't just create it, we also gave it a value, initial value of 0. The first time we click this button, it's going to call button functions, and then it's going to do all of these instructions. We start off with an if condition. If times is equal to 0, well, times was created as 0. When you have the single equal sign, that means assignment. So we are assigning 0 to the variable times. But in the parentheses here, we have a double equals. We are comparing the value at this point. We're not assigning 0 to times. We want to know if the value of times is equal to 0. This is true. Because this is true, we are going to execute all of these statements. This is not true, so this gets ignored. All of these other else ifs are not true, so they get ignored. We only do this one. We give the variable day a value of Sunday. We give the variable picture a value of box / Sunday.jpg. We give the value, sound, the value box / Sunday.og. And then in this statement, times plus plus, we take that value of 0 and we turn it into 1. Okay, so now we get through all these else ifs that do not count because it's not what it's equal to at this point, and we go to this, which is the same as the previous function. We take document.getElementById, my image, so we're talking about this image element here, dot source equals picture. In this case, when we click this, we are talking about the image for Sunday. And then this, document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes, my sound, or my SND, dot source equals sound, we're talking about the OGG file for Sunday. And here, document.getElementById demo, we're talking about this paragraph here, in document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes, demo.innerHTML equals the string today is, with a space, plus the value of day, which in this case will be Sunday. All of that will happen when I click this button. Now, remember, in that first true statement here, after we create all these values for the variables and then stick those in these three different page elements, we change the value of times to 1. And that's done with the function until we click it again, because up here is where times is going to equal 1. It's global. So it's going to save that value out here. And I click this button again. Now times is going to be equal to 1. So this will not be true. This will be true. And then these things will be the new values for day, picture, and sound. And then it will come down here and it will take these three statements and fill up these three elements with the new values. Increment the value of our counter called times again. Then when we click it again, you see the pattern. So each time I click it, the value is going to be this. Then the value is going to be this for the next click. And so on and so forth until we get to the very end. Now when we get to the very last one, which is when times gets the value of 6, that means we've clicked that many times. The day will have the value of Saturday, the picture will have the value of box/Saturday.jpg, the sound will have a value of box/Saturday.ogg, and now we want to set times not up by 1. There's no such thing as that many days of the week. We are going to set it to 0 so that it goes back to Sunday. So we have like a loop going on here. So those are all the values, and then it's going to do the same thing. Okay, so that's the end of the script, the end of the head. Before I go into your body elements, let me close that function. We'll close that function up. Close the head up too while I'm at it. And I will run this with the button so that you see all these changes with each button click. Now remember, Saturday, when I click it, it's going to go to Sunday. Okay, so you've seen all that iteration through all those different changes of those values. So now let's look at the body. Let's actually look at the tags that make up these page elements. So body on load equals daily news. This means as soon as you open this page or refresh the page, it's going to call this function daily news. And I already went over that function. So after the body tag, the opening body tag, we have div id equals wrapper. All right. And in the wrapper, we have an image. Image ID equals my img. Source equals a blank string, because we're not setting it to anything initially. Width is 100 and height is 100. So if you want to change the width and height of whatever this image is, you just change the width and height here. Then we have an HR tag, which is the horizontal rule. It's a pencil thin line right here, followed by our audio tag, audio ID equals my SND, controls audio play, closing audio tag. Controls, this option lets the user see the controls. If you don't want them to see the controls, you just want them to hear the sound, then leave this word out. Autoplay is pretty self-explanatory. If you want, when the program runs, if you want it to play without them having to hit this button, use that. If you don't, take that option out. Then there's another horizontal rule tag, which you can see after the audio player is another pencil thin line. Now we have our paragraph tag, P ID equals demo, closing paragraph tag. That's what represents this section. And so again, the ID with my image, my sound, and demo, those IDs are all being manipulated using JavaScript. This ID of wrapper is being manipulated with CSS style sheet. The IMG tag is being manipulated with a style sheet. And I can't think what else. Alright, so that was the paragraph, and here's another horizontal rule after the paragraph, nice thin line. Finally, we get our button. Button on click equals button functions. So it's this on click event that calls that secondary function that we learned, that secondary JavaScript function. In between the opening button tag and closing button tag, we have whatever we want to show on the face of the button. So iterate through various outputs by multiple button presses. You could say whatever you want on your button. Okay, so there's the closing div tag for that whole wrapper that contains all of those elements, closing body tag, and closing HTML. And that's it.